Brains are overrated. I'm going to have to actually disagree with that.
If anything, they're underrated. More people need them.
Brains are kind of great. I wish mine worked. Mine is often backwards and not right where everyone else's brain usually is, and sometimes it's a good thing, and sometimes it's a bad thing. When you haven't had your daily dab and you woke up an hour ago and you haven't woken up yet, things just don't go that well.
As you haven't played, pretty is your initial thoughts.
Pretty?
It is a fairly pretty game, yes.
Pretty is a very valid observation of the game. Absolutely. Are we jumping right into it? Is that what we're doing? We're just getting right into Elden Ring? We can talk a little bit about the other game that came out first. The one that's getting...
Horizon?
It's getting swept under the rug. Everybody's just like, Elden Ring! I read a little story.
It's such a shame, too, because Horizon is like a technical masterpiece. That game is incredible.
It is a fantastic game. It was beautiful. It was fun. It was well made. I don't have a single complaint about the game. It ran flawlessly. Oh my God, it ran flawlessly. Like, there were so many scenes in that game that literally my jaw dropped. Like I can see something on the monitor and I'm just like,
accurate. I can't wait for that to be the new standard of visual quality, visual fidelity.
Yeah,
for games.
It's definitely the bar. It's the new bar.
It is truly an incredible looking game, and that's what makes Elden Ring's performance issues even more confounding to me. Like, they just... So as far as I can tell, what they did is they took the Dark Souls 3 engine and tacked on an open world. And, using the phrase tacked on doesn't generally lead to a lot of confidence, and this is why. The open worldiness of it because they didn't implement shader streaming well, and because they've clearly got issues with asset loading, it's the performance is not good, and it doesn't look like a PS5 game. It doesn't look like a modern 2022 release full AAA visual fidelity game. The art style is great. I love it. But the fidelity just isn't there, and neither is the performance.
Elden Ring is running on the Bloodborne Dark Souls 3 Sekiro engine.
Yeah. Difference is Sekiro was obviously much more constrained.
Oh, yeah.
Didn't have to deal with the huge levels. The loading tech that they were using was totally fine for that.
Sekiro is a technical masterpiece for a character action game.
Oh yeah, it has the best input handling of just about any game I've ever played.
Yeah,
but the issues that they've run into with Elden Ring are
obvious,
somewhat symptomatic. Yes, obvious is a good word, but somewhat symptomatic of them having not done a lot of DirectX 12 work, because Sekiro and everything previous on PC was DirectX 11 or earlier versions. And somewhat symptomatic of them not having done a open world game before, because asset loading is very different in an open world game, and it takes a lot more care.
The loader tech is everything in an open world game. It is, and the masters of it are Guerrilla. They really
occlusion culling. Holy shit, their occlusion culling is good.
Yeah. So FromSoft, go ask Guerrilla how to load assets in an open world game. That's who you want to talk to, because I've never seen shit like that in my life. To me, the most staggering and amazing thing I saw in Horizon Forbidden West, and it's going to probably be different for me than most people. I mean, it would probably be similar for me and Rage, because we both understand what has to go on in the background for these things to happen. But to most people, it would be, oh, look at that. You can kind of see that over there now. But I'm standing on a mountain, and over 1,000 paces away is a tall neck walking around. I can see the tall neck walking around, but I can see robots running around its feet and getting stepped on by it from that far away. Clearly, I was like, holy shit! They can do that? They're tracking that? What? Who? How? What? No frame drop?
It's absolutely mind-blowing, one, that they were able to accomplish that at all. Oh, I got a blister. And two, that the PS5 can do it, because it's a cut-down RDNA 2 GPU, and it's a cut-down Zen... Is it Zen 2 or Zen 3? I think it's Zen 2 processor cores in it. Like, it's not as powerful as our PCs. Straight up, it's not.
A lot more focused. But it can
do that.
A lot more focused. To be fair, it is a lot more focused, and it uses its resources in a more focused way. So the less resources is more than it sounds like.
Yeah, they're getting, I would say, probably closer to 3/4 of the performance of our PCs, whereas they only have half the physical hardware.
Yeah.
Which is incredible. Sony's done a great job programming their operating system. But, like...
Yeah. I mean, watching Val play it on the 4 Pro, there were some areas where it had some frame issues. But it was primarily also, in towns.
It's also clearly rendering at a lower internal resolution.
Yeah.
Like that's a whole thing.
Yeah, there's no way it could. There's no way it could do what the 5 was doing. It would light on fire. It would turn into a cooking apparatus. But like the thatched town, he dropped down to like 10, 20 frames in that town.
Oof. Big oof.
Yeah, which is really sad, because that is one of the most beautiful towns I've ever seen in a game. Period. Down. It's one of the coolest things I've ever seen. Just big thatched walkways and everything. That was pretty.
Yeah,
and all the components on the monsters, the robots.
Yeah.
So many components.
I think they stole a little bit from id in the new game with their destruction tech, and tried to use id's techniques to make that work better. Because at least in my experience with the initial game, there would be a little frame drop when you busted off a bunch of pieces from a monster, or from a robot rather, and the new game doesn't seem to do that at all.
I think it's more the PS. Yeah, I don't know how well it would adapt, because I know what it is doing with the 2 layers of models. They may be able to use that for some of the minor deformation, but you do need to track every component on the thing still as an individual object, because they all have unique interactions, and they do have to detach and spawn into the world as a lootable specific to their type.
Which is not that hard to do, honestly. Like, well, at least conceptually, it's hard to do well. But you shoot that component with its weakness or whatever you need to do to break it off. You play the animation for having it break off, and then you spawn that item. Like, that's not conceptually difficult. But the way that they've managed to do it and have it not drop frames and not really impact frame time consistency all that much, is really impressive.
Yeah. Well, the last boss is even cooler on that technique, because it actually regrows its pieces.
That's dope. I like that a lot.
Yeah, its plates constantly regenerate and like reparticleize and stuff that you got to blast through again, and yeah, fucking thing. And it had real boss fights, and decent ones actually. So, not great ones, but decent ones.
I don't think I saw any of the boss fights except for the tutorial boss. I've been out of it for like the last week.
Well, that's good because now when you play it, you haven't seen them. And there's actually
gotta wait for it to come out on PC.
They do the whole, hey, we're introducing a new robot. We're going to make you fight the robot by itself. Boss fights.
Nice.
Really, an introduction to the robot. They still do that from the first game, but then they have actual boss fights built into it. Most of them are fighting humanoids, but they're boss fights. That's what I asked for. I can't complain. Yeah, it's their first attempt at boss fights. It's not terrible. That's all you can ask for. I've had so many terrible bosses. If it's your first try at a boss and it's not terrible, I'm like, cool, better next time.
Yeah, and from what I've heard and the little bit that I saw, because I think I only saw one boss-ish fight, it seems like they're definitely on the right track. And we have seen a lot of recent games that do a lot worse with bosses.
Yeah, having done this channel for a couple of years now, I can mention bosses. Okay. Speaking of bosses, Elden Ring's first one is a doozy.
So I'm torn. I'm torn on Elden Ring's first boss.
I don't like it.
There's going to be spoilers coming up. So anybody who cares about those,
we're avoiding story spoilers as much as humanly possible. There will be some mechanical spoilers, but we're going to try to keep spoilers to a minimum still.
Yeah,
minimum
there will be an attempt.
Does not mean none. But we're not going to give away huge things. Like, and you're running around in the world, you're not going to like encounter some amazing thing and be like, oh, they told me about this. We promise that won't happen.
Yes. But the first boss fight has some significant problems in Elden Ring. And part of that is due to the performance issues that we already touched on. There's a lot of stuttering during that fight, at least on my end there was. It seems to be like configuration specific. Did you update your display drivers?
Yep.
You did. Interesting, because I also updated and I am getting it, so I'm trying to isolate like what it might be.
I game at 1440.
Me too. Okay. The only difference is I encode at 1080p and I'll just get like second long dips to 20 FPS. Anyway, some of those problems caused by performance issues. Obviously, they shouldn't be loading and unloading things during a boss fight. That should be done when you enter the arena and exit the arena, because the boss fight has to be consistent. And some of it is to do with problems in the design of the first area, and some of it is to do with problems in the design of, well, not necessarily the design, but the implementation of the boss itself. So we've got, obviously, the performance stuff, which I'm going to be yammering on this whole time. The PC that I'm playing on is the same setup as Deus's. These PCs are way overkill for this game. Yep. Way overkill.
As soon as I saw frame drop on my system, I was like, ooh, that's bad.
Yeah, it kind of runs like trash.
There's literally nothing I could do about this.
You beat Ishin. Congratulations.
Congratulations on the dings. Sword Saint kill.
Ding, 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 ding.
We need RageBot in the channel, I guess, huh? I guess it would just play on your audio anyway.
Well, play on my capture. I could route it through my mic if I wanted to.
That's fair. You were saying Elden Ring should have had another Fall Guy, so to speak, before that tested the open world. Okay, so my biggest problem with the boss is the player conditioning issue. Because if you're paying attention as a player, the very first thing that you get is some guy telling you exactly where to go to get to the next hop. And that's not too far away. And, you know, maybe they give you the big horsey and teach you, hey, there's going to be some big tough things that you're going to have to avoid. You might have to come back later for some stuff. And then you get to there and he goes, oh yeah, you can go to here. And he gives you literally another breadcrumb right to the next point. And he explains the arc. And then, you know, if you follow it on a fairly consistent and reliable path, it does give you a direct path if you're paying attention and leads you right to the boss. And you will be completely unprepared for the boss if you're paying attention to the game. The only way to be prepared for the game is to ignore the NPCs and ignore all the direction in the game and ignore everything and just go randomly wandering. Otherwise, you're just going to be totally unprepared. They should be encouraging you to wander more and let you go find the boss and maybe put the boss farther in to make sure that you've gotten enough strength due to your wandering. And this is all design choice issue due to it being their first open world game where they're really used to creating a fairly linear design. Like they're not linear games, but they do have a linear path designed into them with a distinct intention of direction. They didn't want to leave that behind, but then they tuned the boss for the player to not have followed their direction.
Yeah, which is the issue that both you and I ran into. Where you get to the boss and you're just woefully underprepared. You don't have the power that you need. Straight up.
Yep. No, it's like you know us. We're not bad at games.
I have at least 1,000 hours in Souls games. At least.
I've done my fist run. You know, I've done my challenge runs. I've done Charmless NG plus Sekiro and stuff like that. And people, oh, this is so hard. I'm like, that's not bad. And that's usually my approach to these games. And this boss is just like, I fought him for a while. At first I was like, oh, hey, this guy's kicking my ass. This is going to be fun. And then after a while I was like, no, you know what? It's not actually fun. It's really just beating my face into a wall is really all it is.
And I mean, some of that was our problem because we both built very poorly our first character, thinking that we had to approach the weight system much like Dark Souls, wherein your medium roll is mostly useless and you should just be light roll all the time.
Yep.
But some of it is also just down to the boss having too much defensive abilities and too few attack opportunities for the amount of powers that they give you. Because they give you a very low amount of power if you follow the guidance. You're basically base character when you get there. And then in order to get power, you have to just kind of run around and find a hidden spot that's out of the way and doesn't have anything leading you to it. It's not good.
No, it's not. I think they would have been better with less guidance and let the player just roam around and find things to find the first guidance. And maybe you could do something like track the player's power level, and once they reach a certain point of weapon upgrades, maybe have a certain few places you want them to have found before, and then the guidance comes in and starts giving you the arcs and explaining that bit so that you have that experience of, okay, I'm going to need to wander around. I'm going to need to find things. I'm going to need to gain strength. If I don't find the way, guidance will eventually come to me. So I just got to keep playing the game is kind of what you're taught then. That sounds about like what you want. And then you can assure that the player has a certain level of power before they are thrust into the main arcs of the game where they're expected to explore in order to gain power as they go through.
That is probably a more robust way to handle it. I agree. Honestly, what I would do is just move the upgrade cave to, like, right by the boss.
Yeah, that's not a bad way to do it. Do it as a little offshoot by the boss, or maybe even not directly by the boss, but provide some guidance. Push the character there in some way.
Yeah, something to funnel the character in there and go, oh, this is exciting, I got a bunch new power, this is great. And then you can go and beat the boss. I mean, it's not undoable, he's just kind of a brick wall.
Yeah. But I mean, they're basically... they're basically giving you +3 like at the very start of the game. They could push that farther in and just lower the power level a bit and actually have like a progression instead of just hey, we've got to get the player some power so they can actually start playing the game.
Or, what I had suggested when we were speaking last night of having another boss before him.
Yeah.
Like just one other boss, because you get, I think, I don't remember what the reward is, but some fairly large amount of runes from defeating that boss. And it does get you a big power bump. The thing is, there's nothing to bump up your power before that. All of the mini bosses are pretty worthless. And if you're following the guidance, you won't run into any of them.
You see, you're only about 7 hours in, you say, but you should be having an interesting and exciting experience by 7 hours in a game.
You should be having an interesting and exciting experience by 1 hour into a game.
Yeah. Yeah, there's no excuse for slow starts. You are for sure. Okay, well, at least you're enjoying it. But really, this game gives zero guidance on gaining power. Sorry, yeah. It gives zero guidance on gaining power. It gives you all the guidance on finding the first brick wall. That's it. And then immediately at the beginning of the game as well, if we want to shrink it down to the very start, it throws brick wall on a horse and brick wall with wings at you, depending on which way you go, right out of the first door. And they're both brick walls. They're designed to be brick walls. You're not supposed to be able to kill either of those. I know,
and that I think is fine.
Yeah,
because
totally
they're
okay
just
with it.
In the world, that's okay.
And that's totally a Miyazaki thing to do. The world is not designed for your progression. The world is designed to be the world, and you have to find your way through it. And that's the charm and appeal of the games. I like that. Oh.
But it's a big round juicy but you get thrown against the brick wall, stopping your progression like immediately. And on my first encounter of the boss, I basically went like, oh, okay, he's got some tough attacks. I'm doing like basically no damage. I guess this is just the experience that they want me to have. So I tried to fight him a bunch and stopped having fun.
Yeah, that was I believe at one point on the stream while I was fighting him, I said, and I quote, "This boss is going to make people quit the game." And I bet you it will. I bet you there's a lot of people that are going to get to him and just stop playing. And
Which is a real shame.
It is.
Having beaten that boss, the next area is great. I really like it. It's a lot of fun. The first area sucks donkey balls.
Yeah, I'm about to fight that guy, though. I think I'm going to go farm those heavier warriors on the horseback because I want to get that chest back from them with the wolf on the back because I liked that piece.
It is really neat.
Yeah. I'll just go kill them until they drop it. Give me your armor! Maybe they'll drop some smithing stones and I can upgrade my Zweihander and then I can convert to the Zweihander. Though I can't make the Zweihander heavy. It's sad.
Yeah, it is a little saddening.
Oh well.
But maybe you just don't have the ashes required to do it. Maybe you can do it later.
Yeah, maybe it can take other abilities that are heavy and it just can't take the Wild Strikes ability. It's just a little too big for Wild Strikes.
Just a little bit.
Maybe I can use Kick on it. Kick is a heavy. So, the weapon crafting system is really fucking cool, and I really like the new weapon crafting system.
Big agree.
Yeah, I really like how it just encourages you to play with things without consuming anything. And it's just like, hey, we're just going to make the game hard, and here you go. Figure out how to get some damage out of your weapons, because you're going to need it. And that's a fine approach.
And I think it's way more friendly than previous approaches. Like, even with the other infusion techniques in Dark Souls 2, Dark Souls 3, you had to go back to the blacksmith. You had to, consume a resource to be able to make that change. And it wasn't easy to undo. very much finite. You'd only get a certain number of them per playthrough. And the way that it was handled was very much like, if you do this, there's not really any going back. You got to be prepared. Are you ready to make this commitment?
Are you sure you want to irrevocably damage your weapon beyond all repair and nerf your damage?
Which resulted in a lot of people just not doing it.
Yeah, I didn't. I was like, I'll just leave it base and smack things. Or really the best way to handle weapon development in Dark Souls is to get any Black Knight weapon and level it up.
They're okay at best in 3.
Oh, yeah, not 3. I'm thinking 1. But yeah.
1, you get a Black Knight weapon, you level that up, you're fine.
Bloodborne and this game are a lot closer in design for the weapon system because of the, complete... Bloodborne is, again, just level it up its plus and then stick pieces in it for free and figure out how you like it arranged. But this one's a lot more versatile, and it takes that free swapping design of Bloodborne on the simpler weapons and applies it to the really complex weapon design of Dark Souls. But it just takes that complex, fun Dark Souls weapon system and gives it a quick, fun swap around, which is... Yeah. As soon as I realized, what? They don't charge me anything and I can take it off if I don't like it? What? Yay! I'm going to have fun now! I'm not used to FromSoft games just letting me have fun. I'm used to having to go and earn my fun. That's the best way I can put it.
Which I've been thinking a lot about Elden Ring versus design decisions they made in Dark Souls 1 from a mechanics point of view. And a lot of the stuff has been carried forward and made a lot more user-friendly. A lot more user-friendly, and it's great. But at the same time, I'm of the opinion that it's been, in its user-friendliness, it's been watered down a little bit.
I understand.
It doesn't feel as impactful, which is just kind of a design decision. At least it's not Dark Souls 2 where you need to be level 180 to feel powerful. But when I upgrade my weapon, I go, oh nice, 10% more damage. But when I'm doing 60 damage, that's 6 damage. It's not a lot.
Yeah, no, I understand. I see the same thing in other games as well. It happens. MMOs, as they get older, they just get more and more watered down. It's all the same mechanics as the base, but everything gets more and more and more user-friendly and easier to consume because they want more people to play it. But then it's kind of well, you didn't have to do all that work now to get this. It's not as rewarding.
I will say, though, I love how they've renamed upgrade stones. Where it's just
Smithing Stone?
Smithing Stone 1, Smithing Stone 2. Thank you. Thank you for this.
I didn't mind blood shard or bloodstones and when they only have the one name and that one name goes up, I'm fine with that. It doesn't have to be weapon upgrade stone. Well, I don't need it to be that exact. You can rub the flavor on it as long as it's the same name all the way through.
The thing that I'm most enjoying, the name is, like you said, it can be whatever. I just love that it's got a number beside it. Lets you know what order this is intended to be used, even if you haven't played other FromSoft games. And I got a weapon upgrade stone level 3 before I got my second level 2. And I was maybe I'm not supposed to be here yet.
Yeah, Dapper was in here saying before he upgraded his weapon to +1, he found a Smithing Stone 5.
really?
Yeah. It's like, wow, you went for a trip, my friend.
You went on a journey and you got a reward that you can't use.
Yeah, it's like doing an ARPG dungeon and getting a really good weapon that you can't use for 5 levels. You're like, oh. Found Thor's hammer and now you have to drag that shit out of the cave because you can't even pick it up yet.
Yep. Although that does lead us towards some of the new stuff that they've done with the weapon system and the attack systems in this game.
Yeah, I really, really like the evolution that you're seeing of the heavy smashy melee. And this game seems to be the let's evolve heavy smashy melee game. Is really what they've done. The dex side seems to be pretty much the same as the other games so far.
Yeah, very R1 focused.
Yeah, which, it's got the R2 abilities. It's very much like playing a Dark Souls 3 dex build. Which,
well, I mean, Dark Souls 3 is R1 spam, the video game.
Yeah. But, they still had L2 abilities and stuff like that. And the parry is there. And it's like a Dark Souls 1 kind of level parry, a little bit more delayed on the initial swing. So you've got to work on your timings more. Timing is definitely harder, but it's consistent, like Dark Souls 1, which is nice. Yeah. So once I figured out the spacing that I needed, I've been getting there and just getting better and better at it. And you can actually learn it and get better. So yeah, go play with the parry system. Parry is implemented as it should be from Dark Souls 1. But over this evolution of Dark Souls 1, Dark Souls 2, Dark Souls 3, Bloodborne, and all these games being introduced, it's the speed side that they've been working on. It's the dex side. It's that skill side. And the strength side of things has always just been, you get a big stick and you hit things hard. And it's effective.
And it's very satisfying.
Yeah, and it's effective, but that's really the amount of depth that it had up until that point. Enter Elden Ring. Welcome to the depth. Oh man, just even just the shield counter,
guard counter,
block counter,
guard counter,
shield counter.
Guard counter is the actual name, but what I call it is shield smash.
Yeah,
because you block it with your shield and then you
smash. And I can't wait to shield smash with a Zweihander.
Oh yeah,
so just that one-handed.
That's a pancaked.
That's a big sword landing on you, man. That's a big sword landing on you. That one addition added so much depth to the strength side, and there's more.
What they've essentially done in Elden Ring's combat system is give you a reason to use the R2 button.
Yeah,
there really wasn't one before.
Unless R2 one-shot things and R1 didn't.
Which is very rare, and R2 is generally slow enough that you just don't want to use it.
It's a niche spot, I agree, but there was that spot where R2 was still useful, and it was so much fun to aim for that spot. like 50 strength, 50 skill in Bloodborne with the Ludwig's Holy Blade. And just hold R2 and watch bosses fall to their knees.
Yeah, it is very, very satisfying.
The first time I did Ebrietas, I had already those stats because it took me a while to find her. And Pookie had already fought her and had a really hard time. And she's like, oh, I want to see this. And I ran up and went, swing, swing. And she went, ka-chung, and fell over. She was like, oh.
This is why I like big weapons. I mean, it says it in the name. It's a great sword.
And the reason I wanted to use this story is because this mechanic is back.
With a vengeance.
So happy for it. And then you add in the jump attack, the jump R2 for the like super heavy stagger attack. It completely changes the combat from Dark Souls. It is nothing alike anymore. I encounter a big enemy, I jumping at it with my weapon. And it's just staggered, and I'm sticking my sword deep into its gullet, because fuck that thing.
And now it dead.
Yeah. Yeah, you could totally berserker now with these new mechanics. You can use these new heavy-hitting mechanics to abuse your big, heavy weapon and just make mockeries out of things. Until you find something with more poise than you.
And then you're in trouble.
And that's why I keep a shield that can parry, even though I go heavy smashy. Because when you go shield smash or guard counter or whatever the fuck you want to call it, and they go, smack, you're like, oh, okay.
I'm sorry. We're gonna run away and heal now. Bye.
Oh, so much good depth. So much good depth.
And there seems to be a poise meter, much like there was in Dark Souls 1 and 3. Okay. But it's an invisible meter that you don't ever see. You basically just feel it. And when you can break that poise, rather than just giving you the ability to attack for a bit, they give you the ability to do a critical attack. Like a riposte, but instead of having to parry first, you just break their guard and run in and be like, ah!
And it's such a good reward. It's totally deserved. You have to hit hard. You have to hit regularly and steady. I'm sure it's a replenishing gauge. If you're not on them, it won't break.
Oh yeah, and it replenishes very quickly as well.
Yeah, but if you can get in there and be effective with your big heavy weapon and just beat on them with it, yeah, you'll knock them over. If you saw me last night fighting the big stone giant dude, that's how I was knocking him over. Just hit him in the Achilles with a big sword hard enough times, and he's like, oh, fuck.
And then he falls over, and you go to town, shove that giant sword into his chest, and turns out he doesn't like that very much.
No, when I was shoving that sword in his chest, I was seeing like 3,000 something damage. Juicy number.
It is significant.
Juicy number. Love it. Nothing better in those games than, ooh, 4 digits. And the only step above that is, oh, 5 digits.
Although that's usually only attainable with magic.
Yeah, that's why it's, oh, 5 digits. Oh, geez, that was gross. Yeah, combat mechanics, healing, standard. Dark Souls 3 healing.
Who is our favorite boss encounter thus far? I don't have one.
Yeah, I haven't fought, and I've only fought one boss. I haven't beat him yet. Fucker.
I've fought a couple now, and they all have their problems. I will say the second boss that I fought was definitely a lot more fun than the first. The mini boss encounters, kind of nonplussed. I
really liked fighting the Beast Man at like base level +0 stuff.
At base level, he's fun. On my second character, I went back there after getting a bit of power and basically one-shot him.
Yeah, no, I know. I did the same thing on my second. I was like, hey, I had a lot of fun with this guy. Whack, whack, whack. Oh. that was the fight. The lion dude behind the castle. I don't know him. You're giving me spoilers.
No spoilery, no space ghost. Or I will bop you.
81 bosses in the game. I don't know if that's actually bosses or just tough enemies. They're probably counting all the guys in the caves and stuff like that too.
Yeah, I'd imagine that's counting anybody with a boss style health bar.
Yeah, we don't count them. They're just like little random droplets in your path. Though the watchdog thing in the first area, if you go there at base toughness, is fucking tough.
Yeah, he took some beating. Like a pretty significant amount of beating.
Yeah, and
although
he's
I'd
got
imagine
some
if you had a blunt weapon, it would be easier.
Well, he's also got some serious tracking on some of his abilities and some pretty tight times, and he does a significant amount of damage depending on how you're set up. So, the guy on the horse at the beginning, you still haven't tried. I spent a lot. See, I played the game for a long time my first day, but I'm the kind of person to like. I'm like Rage. I'm like, hey, something that killed me. And I'll just throw myself at it forever. So, like, I played the game for 4 or 5 hours, but I still had, like, 3 or 4 levels gained and plus 0 weapon. Because I found the horse guy and I fought him for an hour, and then I followed the trails to the big undead dude that drops down with the archers at the very beginning. And then I kited him out and killed him at base toughness without any levels and no sword plus. He was fun. And then I continued up, and I only had like 2 levels and no weapon upgrades by the time I found the first boss guy there. And then I fought him for like an hour and a half, 2 hours. So yeah, I played for a long time and didn't get very far. Had fun.
Yeah. I had honestly been hoping that you would discover something that I didn't about that first boss and just like monster him, and I'd be like, but unfortunately that's not what happened.
No, instead what happened is you went back and beat him, and then I smashed my face into him with a lot less power again, and then got all demoralized, like, Rage beat him. And just went to find power-ups, like, oh, I suck at this game. It turns out I'm actually not terrible at games. It just made me feel that way.
That boss is overtuned. And supposedly he's been nerfed since the network test. So I don't know what he was like before that. Although in the network test, they did apparently have buffed stats and buffed weapons. So that's a thing. Yeah,
no, because when I started hitting him and I was taking little chunks off, I was like, I'm punching Manus to death. Okay.
That's actually what it feels like, except that boss has some of Gale's moveset instead of Manus's.
Yeah, you can't just get close to him and hit him. He's just so quick. He's got those little daggers that's just like, hey, dagger appeared, whack, ha. And I was so low level, which leads to low defense, and I hadn't leveled up my health, that when he did that little with a dagger, whenever you get in close, it was like a third of my life.
Yeah, my first attempt was like that as well. My second attempt, he was doing more like 10%, and my shield just didn't seem to be doing anything to stop it.
Yeah, no, it's
very depressing.
It has a magical component to it, so it goes through your shield if you try to block the weapon, which is very sad.
I think it's actually purely magic damage.
I block some of it.
Summoned weapons.
I definitely block some of it. When I don't block it, I get hit harder than when I do.
But even your sword will have some magic defense on it.
That's fair.
I don't think it deals any physical damage.
That's fair. Your shield has some magic defense on it, but yeah.
So does your sword.
Yeah, I know your sword does, but I'm blocking with my shield and still noticing a difference. But yeah, no, you're right. Yeah, wasn't realizing that. Yeah, it does actually reduce the magic damage some. I was in JRPG world where the magic damage just goes through. I don't know. My brain's not awake yet. Still, I haven't had my cauliflower pakoras for the day yet. I actually get it today though. It's gonna be good.
Oh, it's hype.
How is this beginning experience for you guys compared to other beginnings in FromSoft games?
Way worse.
Way worse. Yeah, the worst one they've ever had.
Way worse.
Worst start to a game Miyazaki has ever done. And it's not the worst start to a game I've ever experienced. It's still playable. It's just not great. It's not up to expectations. There's a really high bar for everything he does, but it's his first open world game. Give him a chance.
Yeah, I am not an open world game enjoyer.
Yeah.
It is not a style of game that I like. I fully admit to that. That is my bias. I hate the first area.
Yeah.
Having done it more than once now, I know where a couple of key things are, a couple of mini bosses and a couple of upgrades. I run straight to those and then go to the boss.
That's pretty much all there is to do in that area, is run to those and then go to the boss.
Oh, there's tons of other nonsense that's unimportant and uninteresting. It's just a waste of space.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's stuff there, but there's nothing to do.
Exactly.
Well, there's the mini bosses, and then the map, and then run to the boss.
And your upgrades, which are not attached to either of those things, and that's really bad design.
Yeah, the fact that the upgrade cave is just a little cave with upgrades in it and nothing else is kind of strange.
There is a boss in there. There is a mini boss in there. Yep. Yep. He's in an area of the cave that you did not notice. But
I've been through it twice and still not found him. Was there more upgrade material?
I think maybe like 1 or 2 more shards.
I'll have to go find him.
It's not terribly compelling.
Yeah, I was just really confused. I was like, why does the cave just end?
He's very hidden, and it's kind of poorly designed, in my opinion.
Yeah. I'm not honestly, most of the little caves so far are reminding me of Chalice dungeons.
Except worse. There's less interesting stuff in them. There's like a batch of trash mobs and then an unexciting mini boss that doesn't really give you a meaningful reward. Yeah. Except for the assassin.
Yeah.
The assassin gives you an amazing reward.
That's true. Yeah, he's a good one to know about and a good one to find. We're not going to give you any spoilers on it, but in that first area, there's some cool stuff to find. There is. It's a pain in the ass to go.
Stuff to find.
There's a cool thing to find. Yeah, fair enough. But again, it's the first area, and that map got fucking huge.
Oh yeah, it gets enormous. And that sort of kind of put a damper on my hopes for the game, if I'm honest. But the back to the assassin. Was he at full health when you fought him?
No, he starts at half.
Yeah, I thought that was really weird.
He's going to be a normal enemy later in the game, is why.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, 100%. Same with the other things that we fought. I bet you they all become normal enemies at some point in the game. They're just stuff from later in the game that are found early on as little mini-bosses.
Detuned.
Maybe not even detuned. Just when you find them, now you kill them in 3 or 4 hits.
Yeah.
Now it's just an enemy. Because I mean, most... Go ahead.
I was just going to say the assassin fight, very obviously detuned, having him start at half HP and, not really doing anything for the majority of the fight.
But, it's... When it comes to Souls enemies, if a high-level enemy encountered early is a boss. Pretty much. They're all enemies are fairly well designed usually. Everything has mechanics involved in it and can kill you if you're not paying attention. And when you're fighting a high level one, all of a sudden it's hitting you harder and you've got to hit it a lot more, and the mechanics take more work to trigger because of the higher health pools, and it really kind of turns them into a little boss.
Yeah, they definitely fit as mini bosses. I'm not going to disagree with that.
Yeah.
There's a clear delineation for me between a mini boss, or in Sekiro, a strong enemy, and an actual, lock you in an arena, here's a boss fight.
Oh, me too, 100%. That's why I don't call them bosses. But they are basically a boss fight. Yeah. Basically a boss fight is what I call them, when you have to fight a high level. If you jump into fighting the Drakes without leveling up at all in Dark Souls, and just jump down and fight one of those Drakes one-on-one, basically a fucking boss.
Unless you have RTSR and know the speedrun setup, in which case you just monster them.
Yeah. There's always ways. But I mean, you monster the bosses too with that setup. Yep. So basically a boss.
Slightly smaller HP pool, but that's about it.
Yeah. How's the beginning experience? Did that cover it? I do kind of like exploring some of the areas of the world so far. A lot of the area has been boring, but when I get to some of the areas outside of the first map, I start to find some interesting things.
The next section that you'll be proceeding into after you get through that boss fight is very fun. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I can't wait to get into that castle and start going through the castle. Nobody does castles like FromSoft.
Yeah, and this lives up to their legacy of doing castles incredibly well.
Excellent. Because Anor Londo is one of my all-time favorite levels in any video game. From Dark Souls 1.
Temper your expectations a little bit. It's not Anor Londo, but
I know.
it's better than most of the...
I'm not saying it's going to be Anor Londo. That's why I'm saying Anor Londo is my all-time favorite, period. Like, I've never done anything of that. I've done many of their games since then, and nothing has come to Anor Londo quality. I'm not expecting it.
Yeah. It's more sort of Dark Souls 3 with the Candlehead guys area.
Yeah, I don't remember any of the areas of Dark Souls 3. I just smashed through the whole game and it all just blurs together now.
Yeah. I didn't like Dark Souls 3.
Dark Souls 3 was fine. I mean, it's better than most character action games.
No, yeah, for sure. It's the same sort of problem that Dark Souls 2 had, where if it wasn't attached to the Dark Souls IP, I'd be like, wow, this is great. They did a great job. This is a good game. But because it was attached to Dark Souls 1, it's just kind of like, well, yeah, not quite as good.
Yeah, making a sequel to a great game or a remake to a great game is like meeting your heroes. It's the same sort of effect. You shouldn't do it. Not good. Just ruining the original. That's it.
And that's why, like, I'm so glad that they haven't done a Bloodborne 2, and as far as I know, there's no plan to do a Bloodborne 2.
Yeah, don't do it.
It would ruin it retroactively.
It would.
That being said, I would love to see a Tales of Tomoe DLC for Sekiro.
If you do another Bloodborne game, it has to be a prequel and take place in the time of Iz and Loran.
Or just be, like, completely unrelated to the first game in some way.
Yeah. Well, that's basically unrelated to the first game at that point. The only relation is this is what happened before that game, and that's the extent of the relation. You wouldn't hear any characters, you wouldn't hear any references, you wouldn't hear any cities, because there's like layers and layers and layers of archaeology on top of these places by the time Bloodborne 1 happens. So there's you break that, and then you also get to reveal what he was thinking with the origins of his lore and his myth, and that's really what we want.
And I would love to know more about the Vile Bloods. Like, touching on the Vile Bloods would be sick.
Yeah, Vioblood would need to be a DLC, I think.
Yeah, probably. I don't think there's enough there for a full game. But if you were, like, in the age of the Iz and the Loran, and had, like, a whole section that was dedicated to how the Vile Bloods came to be, and
that assumes the Vile Bloods are that old.
Yeah, the queen is a whole thing, right?
Well, I mean, she's old for people, but this is like ancient.
The queen is a whole thing. And we don't know. We don't know how old the queen is. We don't know. We don't have that information.
We don't actually know, but we do know that, or we're fairly sure that Iz and Loran predates, like, well, I guess Loran doesn't predate people. Because Loran was people turning into beasts. Loran's like the beginning of people civilization. And Loran is at the same depths as Iz, so Iz happens at the same time as Loran.
Could be cool.
Bloodborne lore gets fucking trippy. Like, we're talking about archaeology here that happens in the game in order to determine the history of the game. That's... As somebody who wanted to be an archaeologist for a long time in his life, that just blew me away. When I started realizing the depth of the lore in this game, I was like, wow, you fucking planned some shit. This is amazing. You changed my mind on how games should be made. Actually.
Yeah, and I mean, you've told the story a ton of times, but, like, I think Bloodborne was the perfect opportunity to get you into modern gaming, because it was really the title. Like, it is the game. Just full stop.
Let's actually create information on the screen. We've been doing a lot of yammering, and then I'm sure maybe some people have popped in and been like, wow, they didn't do anything.
I mean, they wouldn't be wrong.
Add on, no, tools. No, insert. Insert table. Bam. Good ads. Bad ads. I like the way that rolls off the tongue. Bad ads. But ads. But ads! The whole fucking first area.
Yeah, it's kind of trash compared to everything else that they've done.
Jumping R2 attacks.
The reimagining of the poise system, just as a whole.
Stagger criticals. Ashes of War system.
Yeah, that's great.
Heart.
I am intentionally not using them, but I love the idea of being able to do a run with summons, and not player summons, but you're like the NPC entities that you can summon through the bell.
Mm-hmm.
That would be sick.
They are very cool, and I'm not ashamed to use them on the first boss.
Yeah, I still haven't used one. I found the item that lets me do it. I still haven't used one, but I found the item that lets you do it.
What's the item that lets you do it?
It's a bell, and
yeah, I already had that bell when I was trying to use it.
That's it as far as I can tell. Once you have that bell, it will show a little tombstone icon on the left-hand side of the screen in purple, and when that is visible, you can summon.
Okay, so that's what it is. I need that thing to show up. Because while I was in the boss, I tried to do it, and it fucking worked, and I was like, oh, okay. It works sometimes.
Yeah, it's that little tombstone symbol is what lets you do it.
Okay. NPC Summons, typically a confusing mechanic, has been added, and it's following true. You can't have a FromSoft game without a confusing as shit mechanic. Just wouldn't be right. Wouldn't be right.
Wouldn't be the same. I am excited to do a build that relies mostly on those summons, though. I think that'd be super sick. Like,
yeah, summoner mage.
Just a massive army of summons, and like
you can only have one at a time.
You're tossing out spells. Yeah, but you're gonna get at some point something that summons like 15 of them.
I have the 5 wandering nobles. They're kind of useless, but you get 5 of them. So I'm using the one that summons 3 of the tree beast warriors.
I've heard the wolves are very good. They deal a lot of stagger damage.
I've got the wolves as well, but I like the warriors. They do more damage, take more damage, block and stuff. Yeah. I do like the mount system.
It is necessary. I'm not sure if I would call it a good ad, because the fact that they've made the maps big and empty enough that you need the mount, not necessarily a good thing.
But I do like, it's instant to summon. Like, it just happens really, really quickly. You can do it in battle. I actually use it as a combat tactic in the open world. No? Like
I've used it against a couple of very large enemies, and it is very effective.
Yeah, when I'm in a bad spot, like, I need to get out of here. In combat, you just horse, gone, get off the horse, you've repositioned, like, that's they could have just been like, here's a thing that you can use to move around the world. They didn't. They made it a core part of combat mechanics in the world. It's kind of cool. I love being able to jump off it and do a dropping attack on enemies.
And you hit so much distance with that. Holy shit.
The double jump on the mount. The super mount spring platforms.
I love that I didn't read the tutorial for the mount well enough, and then discovered double jump on my own and was just like,
I'll call it the mount systems. Not just the mount. The mount was necessary, but the systems they added to the mount are like, oh yes, this is good.
Yeah. The systems around the mount, I am a big fan of. I don't like that the mount was made necessary. I don't like that the mount is symptomatic of the maps being too big and very empty, because they are. But the mount systems themselves are really well done. Like, I love the ability to attack on either side of the mount. You can charge your R2s, like being able to ride towards an enemy, hanging your greatsword off one side of your horse and just wham! Super satisfying.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Especially when that wham just fucking kills them and goes, like, cleaves through multiple people. I love it. Like, I've been riding up on a group of 4 and just as my attack goes off and kill 3 of them and jump off the horse and just standing there with my greatsword facing the one last guy. He must just be like, shit.
This is going to go poorly. Yeah, I agree the mount systems are very good. I would like to put in the bad ads. The maps are too big. Yeah, that's a more betterer. I can't
more
think of the
betterer
word
way
I was
to put
actually
it?
going
Yeah.
for. Yeah, but more betterer way to put it. Upgrade cave totally missable is a problem.
Undirected. There's absolutely nothing anywhere to point you to it.
Yeah.
The only reason I found it is because I was riding around and going, oh, that kind of goes in there. What goes down there? Oh, cave. Oh, upgrade materials. That was pretty much how it went.
Upgrade cave really needs to be moved closer to the first boss. Like, honestly, that would solve most of my problems with the first area, because then I can just leave. I don't need to explore it. I don't need to waste my time. I don't need to run around a giant empty area trying to find something interesting. Very upset about the first area.
I haven't played with magic at all, but I saw other people using it, and it's basically Dark Souls 3 magic. It's Dark Souls 3 skill system for the weapon skills. That's nothing new. It's just the ability, the Ashes of War system, to change those, which it also brings a weapon enchant that are familiar names. It's the 90% familiar, 10% new that we're always talking about here.
Yeah, and they hit that very, very well with the Ashes of War system.
They did. The whole, everything. It feels very, very familiar and yet totally new.
What else do we need to talk about? Like everything we talked about with the poise system, like all of the changes they made to that were wonderful. I feel like guard counters.
I feel like we talked about all that for like 15 minutes, and it deserves more, but we really did cover it all in there. It's such a small add to the game that we can talk about it all in a short amount of time, but the impact that it has on the game, it can't be conveyed in that time. It makes strength combat technical
and super fun and rewarding. Like, holy shit, guard counters.
Yeah, guard counters are a thing, but I'm absolutely in love with the jumping R2s and the way they interact. Like the land octopus. Like they're tough and they're so resistant to damage. But then I realized if I do 2 jumping R2s, I stagger it. 2.
There you go. Oh.
just hit it in the beak with 2 of them. Whack, whack, and then when I critical it, it kills it.
Very satisfying.
I know, it took 2 of them at the time. But while it was getting up, I did 2 jumping R2s during its recovery animation and re-staggered it. Yeah, no, they're not a threat. Not a threat at all. And I really like that you can actually just completely trivialize enemies. Also, the safety added of the shield block, the block counter, the guard counter, the shield smash, the whatever the fuck. It just trivializes weak enemies. Like I said, big enemies, enemies that are prime for you to fight and ready for you. You'll do that to them and they'll just face fuck you. And you're like, oh.
They just shrug it off. They don't care.
So, I mean, briefly talking about that little change is essential. They need that. So now the weaker enemies can be trivialized and you can just run through them and smash through the area and feel like a badass, but you still need parry. You still need parry time. You still need finesse. Finesse still plays a role when they outpower you. If you outpower them, you can smishity smash them. If they outpower you, you gotta use finesse. Such an elegant system. Also, you don't need character finesse. You just need player finesse. As long as you know how to hit L2 at the right time, you're fine. Just pull out your kite shield and be like, bonk.
And that's something that's been consistent in all of the Miyazaki games, is it's more about player skill than it is about character ability, which is something that I really like. And having played Sekiro, I think that is sort of the ultimate distillation of Miyazaki's desire in a system to have the player ability be more meaningful than the levels. And honestly, I was sad to see that Elden Ring had gone back to a level system.
It's an RPG. It's a different design of game entirely. I super hope he does more stuff in the Sekiro style.
Me too. I'm not like, outraged about there being a level system. I'm a little disappointed, but like at the end of the day, it is an RPG. They are about stats. A lot of people like that. Okay.
Yep. And honestly, builds and stats brings a lot more replayability to a game, and with a big open world, expansive exploration game like this, the replayability is essential. It's not your style of game, so maybe you don't fully agree or get it.
We'll agree to disagree on that one.
The people who like these games, who like open world games, like to go out and explore and go into the different crevices and do different things and come back and go into different places they didn't go the first time and find new things. And he doesn't have enough in his world for that, but the builds allow for coming back and trying different things in different ways and taking advantage of different weaknesses on different enemies, and it brings a lot of replayability. Whereas the biggest complaint about Sekiro, and even the biggest complaint about Bloodborne, which I've found staggering, is lack of replayability because of lack of builds.
Yeah,
in Sekiro and Bloodborne. And then I get it in Sekiro, if you've played it once, you're doing the exact same thing the next time. Just tighter timing or harder, or you have to make less mistakes, and that is appealing to less people. It's still appealing, but it is appealing to less people in the gaming world. That is a tighter market.
I think it is a valid criticism against Sekiro because of how focused Sekiro is. Yeah. And like that's one of the things that I love about it, is how focused it is. But at the same time, there is very little variation to what you'll be doing as the sort of core loop of your gameplay. It's still a rhythm game using L1 and L1 and R1. But I don't understand that criticism against Bloodborne at all.
I never really understood it either. They were like, all you can use is use different weapons. I was like, yeah, but the different weapon completely changes your play style.
And the build required to use it.
Yeah, like there's... like, yeah, in Dark Souls you have more weapons and spells. And like, yeah, but one weapon in Bloodborne has more variation than all of your spells and weapons combined. Like, show me anything that is as cool as the pizza cutter.
And like the ability to transform in different places in the combo, having different effects and being able to do different things with different pieces of a comboing R1s and R2s, transforming at different points in that combo, using different buttons to attack after you transform. Like, Bloodborne's incredible. Number one game.
The amygdalin arm
is trash, but has a lot of flexibility.
It's very flexible, yes. Flexible is an accurate description for it. But I mean, I'm just talking the variation. Like, they're so different. So different. Do a fucking run with the cost parasite.
Could be Broccoli Man.
Yeah, do a Broccoli Man run. Like, what do you mean no variation? I've played the game 4 times now, and I haven't done it the same way twice.
Mm-hmm. Incredible game. It's a pity about the performance issues.
Meanwhile, like, you know, if you use any of the 50 weapons in Dark Souls, you're basically doing the same playthrough.
If you're using the same class of weapon, you're doing basically the same playthrough.
But I mean, even if it's physical to physical, it doesn't change that much.
I would argue that there's quite a bit of variance between, say, a heavy strength sword and a light dex sword. Like,
yes.
Think Zweihander versus Gold Tracer, for instance.
Yes.
Those are both purely physical weapons, but at the same time, there is quite a bit of variance to them.
Yep, but there's a lot less variance between a polearm and a great sword and a standard sword.
Yes, there is less. I still think it is meaningful.
There's still some. I'm not saying there isn't, but there's just nothing compared to the axe versus the cane versus the cleaver.
Well, and the funny thing is there's a correct answer in that equation.
There is, but all 3 of those weapons are viable and super different.
Yes.
Super different. The cane is a ton of fun to play with, by the way. If you haven't done a cane playthrough, you should. It's fun. I know you have.
It's a totally different play style, and it's so neat that it's in there, and it is so not me.
Yeah, I know you've played with it. I'm not saying you should. I'm saying you all
generally
should.
A general you.
Everyone out there should, because you all need to play more Bloodborne. I don't know how much Bloodborne you play, but I can tell you this. It's not enough.
True.
That's all I know. What else is new?
What else did they add? They added world bosses, is what I was going to say, which is very neat.
They have maps in a Miyazaki game. That's new.
That is very new. And they're actually like really good and easy to use maps.
I actually really like the map. It's not super handholdy. You've got to find it before you can really use it, but it still gives you like a general guidance of where you are and where you're going. Once you find it, it becomes more usable, but it still has that old school feel of like, I've got this cloth medieval map and I'm just kind of getting basic direction of where I've got to go with it, rather than, here's your compass and a little glowing dot, and run to your dot, run to your dot, run to your dot.
Although one of the things that I really enjoy that they added is the ability to add glowing dots.
Yeah. Player added are important, but the little, here's your quest, here's your quest, here's your quest, yeah, that can fuck right off. I was very sad when Horizon Zero Dawn had that still.
It takes away player agency, which is not great.
The best cover review of that mechanic I had ever seen was from somebody talking about Fallout 3 as a review. Talking about why it's a mess and why it's bad, basically, is what he was talking about. And when he's talking about it, there's one point where a competent streamer who was playing the game, not a dumb person, streams a lot of good games, competent player, pays attention, plays games where they need to pay attention, is totally capable of doing said thing, was wandering through an area, and then at the very end of the game, big robot comes out, like huge multi-story tall robot, and goes, oh, where'd the robot come from? Even though he had walked past it multiple times during the quest, because he was following the little indicator on his compass and not paying attention to the screen, because the indicator tells him where to go, not what's on the screen. That can go. All that does is make players not pay attention to the game. It's a terrible mechanic. I'm so sad that Horizon was still using it. Because in the options, Forbidden West had a little explorer or navigator option. Do you want to explore the area yourself and find it, or do you want to be navigated to the quest? And I went, ooh, yeah, fucking explorer. Take as many marks off as you can. And it was still a little too handholdy, but at least not as handholdy. Still too handholdy.
I would honestly probably play on navigator, just because I'm not a big fan of open world games, but I love that they have that option, and I think it needs to be a little bit more extreme on the explory side.
Yeah, I agree. And this all harkens back to old school game design. Like old CRPGs and old JRPGs, where you would talk to somebody and they would give you a quest and you had to read what they said and go do that thing. And that was the loop. There was no spam, spam. Look in the quest log. Is there any new entry? No? Okay, let's go talk to somebody else. That wasn't the way it was done. And now it's just, oh hey, there's a mark above their head. Click, 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 click. Click on the button in the quest log and run to the dot. And that's all you need to do to finish that quest. I didn't care what the person said. It was totally meaningless. I didn't need that information at all. That makes all character dialogue essentially fluff. Totally meaningless.
And I feel like there's got to be a happy medium that hasn't quite been nailed down yet, of like, this dialogue is important, it will give you, the details you need to complete the thing, but still being user friendly enough to guide you through it. Like, perhaps, I don't know, like, you gotta click on a certain word in what they said and ask them about it to get more detail added to your quest log or something like that. I don't know. I'm just spitballing. I don't have a solution. I don't think anybody's come up with a great solution yet, but I think that there is a solution.
The solution is don't write fluff dialogue.
Yeah, but at the same time...
then don't hold the hand. And, like and let us read it and interpret it and understand it and then go do it. And if we don't get it, we can talk to him and he'll tell us again.
I just wouldn't play that game.
Yeah, that's fine. It's not for everybody. There's a lot of people that just won't play Dark Souls too. Doesn't mean it's not a fantastic game.
Yeah, but that's a very good point. I'm going to reconsider what I said. The lack of quest log and lack of any sort of real questing system in Dark Souls, I think, is helped by their level design.
Yep.
And I think the level design is really what makes that. Without the level design, I never would have finished any quest lines in Dark Souls other than the main story.
Yeah, well, the quest lines are really important in Dark Souls. They're very extraneous to the game and just there for context and flavor of the world, so that you can gain some deeper understanding and knowledge. And I see them more as, can you hunt them down and follow them well enough to actually follow these people on their journey and a reason to replay the game. I missed them here. I got to go try that again, kind of thing. Whereas your standard CRPG or open world, which is really, open world is an evolution of a CRPG, is really what it is. It's make a world and let them explore it rather than make a game and let them work through it. Which is what a CRPG was. Just world, here you go. That's really the original open world game. It's just you had to load dungeons and stuff.
Just had another thought. And I think that the small cast that FromSoft uses really helps with that as well. Because like 90% of the things that more than that, 90 plus encountered things that you encounter in the video game are not interactable. Mm-hmm. So when you do find something that's interactable, you're like, oh, what's this? I want to know more.
Yep. And that's definitely their approach. And again, like you said, they pull it off without any quest log, without anything. They use map design more than writing, but it can be done with writing. It can be done with good characters and good writing. Absolutely. I've seen it done on old games. Not new games. Old games. As they got newer, they got more space, and they were like, we can write more dialogue, and they didn't bother making a good dialogue, and then all of a sudden none of the dialogue was worth reading, and then nobody wants to read it, so nobody's reading the quests, so everybody's getting lost, so then they give us guidance to the quests. That's how it went. Just stop writing shitty dialogue. We'll read it and go do the quests properly. You won't get every single person under the sun playing your game. It's not going to happen that way. But there is a huge niche audience that loves those RPGs that would play it, especially if it's done well.
I think that's a correct statement. I think that there is definitely a fairly large niche that would be super into that. I mean, like, look at the huge groups of people who have played the new Divinity games, and those are about as CRPG as they get. I think what they're afraid of is the alienation of players like me who just don't give a shit and want to go play with the mechanics.
Yep. But they have to stop worrying about that and realize that players like you aren't buying into the general mass appeal games either. You're not capturing that market either way. Go for your niche. Yeah. There is a niche. There is a strong niche there. You don't need to grab the major market. All you do when you try to grab the major market is you compete against everyone else in the major market and you get a small piece of the major market. When you go for the niche where nobody's catering to the niche, you get the whole fucking niche. And that's why Dark Souls got so huge. None of the people that loved Dark Souls like those casual mass appeal games. That market was never going to be tapped by those games. But Dark Souls was something different and unique and challenging and hardcore. Nothing else offers it. The whole niche of players that wanted that hardcore old school experience came running. You can't say they haven't done well with a niche.
Absolutely not. I think Souls got way bigger than anybody at FromSoft thought it would.
Yeah. And there's niches out there. That's where your targets should be. Unless you're EA, Blizzard, Activision, basically unless you're owned by
Activision Blizzard.
I'm using the individual entities rather than the umbrella. Otherwise I'd just say Microsoft. So unless you're Microsoft, you shouldn't be diving into the AAA.
Anytime anybody brings up Blizzard, I'm just like, Activision Blizzard.
Yeah,
it's not the same company. It's not.
No, it's not Blizzard anymore. Well, it is Blizzard, but Blizzard is owned by different entities now. It's just Blizzard changing hands. It's not Blizzard North, is what it's not. No more North. They've gone south.
That metaphor works on so many levels. I love it.
Yep. Glad you caught it. Otherwise, it could have just been dry. A lot of people would have just been like, huh.
That was a weird way to phrase that.
I can't think of anything else really new to Elden Ring.
We didn't intentionally, we didn't specifically call out the guard counters. We didn't specifically call out.
Oh, I guess not in here, yeah.
The reworking of the stagger system as a whole, because it does function very differently than it did in...
I included stagger criticals, which is the stagger system. Just being able to cause criticals, period, is new and fantastic, and that small change alone is huge.
Yeah, it's similar to how poise worked in Dark Souls 1, but not the same.
Yeah, instead of just interrupting the attack, it gives you an opening now.
Yeah, which is dope.
Yeah, it just feels so much more rewarding. It makes big weapons feel meatier, which I know you love.
You hit somebody with a 20-pound sword, and instead of them just going, ow, they actually just get staggered.
Yeah, it didn't make a lot of sense to hit something with a 40-pound hammer and they go, let me hit you back. Man, wait till the next level of interactivity in these animations where you hit them with the hammer and it actually like puts a force of hammer into their chest and they ragdoll backwards following your hammer and actually get thrown around by it and shit. Yeah.
I really want to do a hammer build after encountering the hammer enemies in the first area and having them just like immediately break my guard with an R2. I was like, oh, that's scary.
I was so close to buying a mace for this playthrough. So close to buying a mace. But then I found a Zweihander.
Yep.
That's that. All right. We've yammered for long enough. We've talked about the good and the bad. I'm going to probably go eat some Indian food. And then I'm going to come back and stream Elden Ring. Are you going to be streaming Elden Ring tonight?
Probably. I've got some other stuff I want to take care of. I may end up jumping on later. I may end up just hanging out in your chat.
Yeah, you're probably not going to see anything you haven't seen tonight on my stream, so feel free to hang out. We're just going to be beating our face on the boss. You can give me pointers so I don't want to kill myself.
Yeah, I may go make a clip of my successful attempt.
Yeah.
And link it to you.
That'd be wonderful. I'd watch that at this point. I've beaten my face on him enough, and I really am such that I can just watch somebody else kill the boss and be like, oh, okay.
I see.
That's how I did Sword Saint. Honestly, I watched someone do an NG +7 no hit. Went and then beat him in like 20 minutes.
Yeah, I still have no idea how to deal with the spin attack. Just no fucking clue how to deal with that.
Roll at the right time. That's the only way I can figure it out.
Don't get hit forehead.
That's the only answer I've got. You just gotta roll at the right time, and your roll is such a long lead up and such a long outro in mid roll. Still, it's more usable, but it still hurts. I'm sure I'd still prefer quick roll. Actually, I can tell you I still do prefer quick roll. I did use quick roll for a while. It's not worth the amount of damage you take, but it is actually quicker. It was more usable.
Oh yeah, it's definitely snappier.
Yeah.
I'm very impressed with what they did with mid-roll in this game, though. It's totally usable.
Yep.
Totally usable.
Usable, but you don't want to be chaining 2 or 3 rolls together.
Which is another problem with that boss's design.
Yeah. Yeah, you can't block him, you can't mid-roll through him. He's just kind of a fuck you to the game, which is sad.
Yeah. Anyway.
There you go. Updated. Needed.
Yeah, and again, I'm still not entirely sold on it being the boss that's terrible that makes it so hard. I'm still leaning towards it being the first area, just not preparing you for that boss well enough.
I'm going to say that just means the boss is poorly designed. I'm going to blame the boss. He's the easier change. Put a different boss there.
He's
Detune
definitely
him a
the
bit.
easier change. I don't think he's the right change.
Just put another boss in front of him.
Which is a modification to the area.
That's changing where the boss is. You can drop him farther back in the area. Put something else where he is.
Modification to the area.
I guess it's a modification of both at that point. Yeah, but it's not the actual zone itself being changed. It's just the boss location.
Mm-hmm.
Is what I'm saying. Like, I'm not changing the zone or adding more stuff to it or rebalancing it. Just affect the boss. That's all it needs. Let's go find the good game now, though. After we eat good foods.
Yeah, it does come real quick after that boss.
Excellent.
I liked it a lot.
Excellent. I'm gonna go eat food and I'm gonna come back and do that. So, until we see you in a little bit of time, I'm Deus.
And I'm Rage.
May all your shots be headshots.